John, we have a few questions in the chat window. Meanwhile, you can have a look at it.
Yeah, yeah. So
Do
to
we have an
tell,
option to select the t-shirt size?
no. So let me actually just very briefly continue before answering a couple of questions. What we're going to want to do, just to confirm that our purchase went through, is to click on the top left button in the top left corner, and then click on, let's see here, let me go back, sorry, and then click on purchases for my items. We should see the shirt here, and we should see that the offer has been placed. You will need to, we will be on our end accepting these offers. That is currently how the marketplace is set up today. It's based on an offer being created, and then the seller has to accept the offer, which we will do in just a minute. And once that has been done, once you've clicked into this listing, if you scroll down, you should actually see a button that says Message Seller. And when you click on that, you may get a pop-up to enable messaging, which is an important step of this process, because once you enable messaging, you'll be able to send us a message, the seller, and in this case it's Origin, and you can let us know which size shirt you want and where we should send it. So that is basically the end of the process. Once you've sent that message, the last thing I'll say is once you receive the shirt, you do need to go back in and review, leave a review and finalize the transaction. This is actually what releases the funds from the smart contract and to the seller. So that is kind of the final step of the process. And this is basically what it looks like, pretty straightforward. But this is something you'll do once you've actually received the shirt. So that is it. Really appreciate it. Again, check out Origin Rewards. There's all sorts of different ways to earn these Origin tokens. Each month there will be a different campaign, and based on different actions you take, you can earn different Origin rewards. So make sure to check that out. And here are all the different links if you guys want to get in touch with me. This is my email address, John, Jon, @originprotocol.com. And there are a number of other links here as well. I would encourage you to check out. All of our code's open source on GitHub. We do all of our communication out in the open on Discord. So really appreciate all your time. I can jump into a couple of these questions really quickly. And then if there are any other questions, feel free to add them to the chat here. So to talk a little bit about Maker, today we support DAI, their stablecoin. They do have some other tokens. I can't really speak too much about how they all work and interact with each other, but the important thing is that one of them is called DAI, and it is a stablecoin, which is essentially a token that is pegged to, in this case, a fiat currency, the US dollar. These are pretty experimental for sure, all of these stablecoins. So, it's, I think, still up in the air which one's going to win long term. This happens to be the first one that we've implemented, but again, we intend to support many different ERC20 tokens moving forward. If there's any other questions about DAI specifically, feel free to put them there in the chat. Another question, is it legal to purchase products in crypto? I'm not a lawyer, and all different countries and states have different jurisdictions, so not something I can speak to specifically. What I can say is a big philosophy of ours and an important piece of this is that we don't think these types of decisions should be made on the technology level. So that's one huge advantage to the blockchain, is that it makes it very difficult for governments to enforce a lot of these rules and regulations. So at the end of the day, we think it's up to the users and the marketplace operators to make the decisions on what's okay, what's acceptable, and what they want to do. But the technology itself will allow anybody to buy or sell any type of good. So there's really no restrictions when it comes to the actual technology itself, just a matter of the marketplace operators that are actually running these marketplaces. Let's Somebody is saying that the t-shirt is showing as sold. So let me see if I can figure that out. In the meantime, if anybody has any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I will check on the shirt right now. It might be that you found a different shirt. There are a number of different Origin shirts that all basically look very similar. Sorry for the confusion there. That's why you'll want to search for Chennai to find the correct listing. And there should be 20 available. From what I can tell, it still seems to be the case. So, and again, don't stress out too much if you're not able to get the shirt purchased by the end of this presentation. Looks like one's pending, so somebody got through, which is great. We can go ahead and go in and accept these very quickly here. But again, if you have any problems or issues, feel free to email me, and I can make sure that we coordinate with you to get through all the way to the end of the process sometime after the presentation. I'll put my email address here in the chat as well. Yes, it does ship internationally. It's a nice shirt too. So even though it only says it's $1, it certainly costs us more than $1, and we're going to pay the fee to ship it. All we ask from you guys is to just give us some feedback on your experience. Tell us, why you're interested in crypto, why you're interested in Origin, what you thought about the mobile application. Of course, we know it's buggy and it's not perfect by any means today, but we think it's a really good foundation, and hopefully you guys can appreciate that there's a lot going on under the hood that is allowing you to have this transaction happen without a middleman. There's no middleman sitting in the middle that's actually collecting any of this data. It's really just a smart contract that's facilitating these interactions between you, the buyer, and us, the seller in this case. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this interactive type of presentation and the opportunity to use one of these decentralized applications. We hope it's much, much easier in the near future, and we're going to be making lots of updates to that end. But for now, again, we'd certainly appreciate any and all feedback. Okay, great. It says, do we want to swap the currency to purchase? Yes, you do want to make sure you are using ETH because you don't have any DAI in your wallet. You only have ETH if you're able to get it from the faucet. So you do need to switch the currency from DAI to ETH in order to complete the transaction.
Absolutely. Oh, I think it's very nice presentation, John, and we were able to capture the entire journey. User journey is very nice. This is my initial feedback with respect to Origin, but because I just did while you are presenting, so I was able to progress completely well. So there is no lagging from user standpoint. So user experience really good, and journey also really good. Thank you so much for presenting this to our community.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Sure, definitely, it's my pleasure. Okay, any other questions before we wind up?
Looks like we got one more.
Yep.
How do we ensure the quality of the product in decentralized marketplaces? Normally, it is the reputation of the marketplace that instills confidence amongst customers. Yeah, there's a lot of nuance to this for sure. Number one, I think people's reputation. That's generally how these peer-to-peer marketplaces work. So there is a little bit of a balance. It's a balance between the actual users having a reputation and then also the marketplace itself giving the users confidence that they're going to back them up if there's some sort of event where something gets ruined or broken or whatever the case is. So the best answer I could give is that yes, you're still certainly going to need services that are provided. There's all sorts of things that you need for marketplaces, things like insurance and dispute resolution and escrow and all these things we have built in quite a bit into our platform already. But these are just options. That's really important to us, is to give marketplace operators and users options. So instead of, when you're using Airbnb, you don't get a choice to decide who arbitrates if something happens or who's going to provide the insurance. But for these marketplaces, we intend to allow the marketplace operators and the users to ultimately choose and agree to things like who is going to provide dispute resolution or insurance, etc., before the transaction takes place. So yes, there may be some fees for these services. We talk a lot about cutting out the middleman. I don't think it's going to be quite that simple, but I think the important part is that the middleman is not just sitting in the middle taking a cut of every transaction, regardless of the value that they're delivering. We think it'll be a lot more fair, and these transaction fees will naturally be lowered as the blockchain allows the buyers and sellers to meet, which is most of the time what these online marketplaces charge their fees for today, is really just connecting the buyer and the seller. So if you can do that with the blockchain, then you can bring down these fees a lot. And instead of just having this middleman that controls everything, you, the buyer and the seller, are still really at the core and in control of everything. And these insurance and dispute resolution and all of these other important parts of the marketplace are coming from third parties rather than from a middleman that's trying to control everything. Another question about how do we choose the right blockchain? There's no easy answer as far as which blockchain should one project use. We basically bet on the community. So Ethereum has the biggest developer community, and we think that they, because of that, have one of the best shots of solving a lot of the known issues that there are today with the blockchain, including user experience and scaling and all that stuff. So we chose Ethereum, but we are middleware, and so we can certainly in the future support other blockchains if it makes sense to the user. That's the most important person, is what's going to be best for the user. So if a different blockchain makes sense in the future, we'll certainly consider it. I'm not exactly sure I understand the question from Ram. I think it's kind of basically around, this sounds pretty easy to do with virtual goods, but how do you do this with physical goods and things that are offline? I think that's the question. It's kind of the Oracle problem, which means you need to somehow tie in offline information somehow. But there are interesting ways of doing that. So even in the profile example that we went through, where we added our phone number and email address, you could do a similar thing. Let's say for a home sharing network, you could send a postcard to somebody's physical mailbox address that they list their home with. And so you could prove that they actually own the home that they're listing on this home sharing network. So there are some ways to bridge the online and offline worlds, but they are hard problems. And there's a lot of companies today in the blockchain space working on digital assets, NFTs and all that sort of stuff. And we do think those will be a good fit for what we're building, but we think the harder problems are these online to offline problems. So we decided to build those first and go after those first. All right. Any thoughts on Hyperledger? Not specifically, no. I don't know a ton about all of the nuances of all the different blockchains, but at the end of the day, we're again just betting on the developer community behind Ethereum, and hoping that in the near future, a lot of the known problems will be solved. What if the buyers didn't close the purchase flow? What would happen to the amount sitting in escrow? In this case, it would likely go to arbitration, and both the buyer and seller would basically have to prove one way or another what happened. The messaging system we built, it's a peer-to-peer system, so your messages are encrypted and secure and all that good stuff, but it does allow a third party in the event of an arbitration event allow them to view any messaging that's happened, view the transaction history. And in the case of us mailing you a shirt, we can pretty easily prove like that the shirt was delivered or that sort of thing. So, but it would go to a arbitration process, and the third party, in this case, it's Origin. Today it's Origin, where we're the only third party basically that arbitrates. But again, in the future, we intend to offer options to marketplace operators and users for who to go through for arbitration. But it's just going to be a basic process of trying to figure out what happened and who owes who what. How to earn those crypto money like DAI that you mentioned? Do we purchase with the existing physical money? To purchase DAI, there's a number of different ways. I don't know, again, all the details. I would probably just do some research online, but I believe you probably would have to, I'm not sure, I'm guessing you could probably purchase it directly with fiat, but a lot of times people just purchase it with other cryptos like ETH or Bitcoin. Probably ETH actually, because it's a ERC20 token. So it's most likely that you would just swap it for some ETH. So yeah, Origin does allow users to set up their own dApps. We are not really setting out to run a marketplace. We don't really want to be, Amazon. We want to provide infrastructure for many, many different marketplaces. So thousands of marketplaces across hundreds of different verticals. So you can create these today by going to originprotocol.com/creator.
Yeah, just a quick note. I tried it out yesterday and it went really well. To all in the group, you can try out the originprotocol.com and you can create your own marketplace. It's simple.
Yeah, and this is just one step to getting blockchain into the hands of more people, more users, more developers, more entrepreneurs. We want to abstract away all the complexities of the blockchain and just make it very easy for you to create a marketplace, regardless of how much you know about smart contracts or if you know how to code. So much more coming down the road, so keep an eye out for all of our updates. We're very active on Medium and Discord as well. Feel free to join anytime and introduce yourself and say hi to the team.
Sure, John.
All right. Thank you again. Really appreciate everybody's time. And if you have any questions, send me an email, reach out to one of us at Origin, and we'll talk soon.
Sure. Thank you so much for presenting your presentation here. It's really well and good. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.